Hi, welcome or welcome back to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Maria Andrea, and this is Thursday Night Poetry. And for this Thursday Night Poetry, I wanted to finally get to a video that I've been meaning to do for months now, it seems. So a couple of months ago, Pat from Book Chat with Pat made a video, the top 5 poets that have influenced her love of poetry, and she was inspired, and it was kind of like a response video to other booktubers who've done that video. So I don't remember the order of who did what, and I'll try to link all of the content creators that Pat was responding to. I know amongst them was Joshua Kribo, and so I oftentimes watch Joshua Kribo's poetry videos and Pat's poetry videos and have conversations in the comments about our shared love of poetry. So in response to them, and as a way to connect with other poetry lovers here on BookTube, I wanted to put out my version. And initially I thought, well, I'll just put out the top 5, and then I thought, well, what if I do the top 5 Latine poets? And then time just kept slipping by, and now we're in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month, and I thought, I haven't put out a poetry video since the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, and I would like to, at least, if anything, just at least once in the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. So in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, I am tweaking my video to the top 5 Hispanic, Mexican American, Latine poet that have been significant contributors to my poetry journey and my love of poetry. So let's get started. I have my journal right here, so I'm going to try to use my little outline to navigate this conversation, because otherwise I'm going to go off the rails. And it's so funny, if you could see my journal here, I've done this list over and over and over again. So these are not by any means, like, it's so hard to pick top 5, right? Like the 5 poets. I love so many poets, and so many poets I kept like swapping one out for the other over and over again. But for now, I'm going to stick to it. Okay, so number 1 is a poet that whom I've talked about on my channel before as a very influential poet. And I don't think that she gets talked about enough outside of academic courses. And this is Sor Juana Inez La Cruz. Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz was a Mexican criolla, and I've spoken about her before. I'll try to link the video where I talked a little bit more in detail about her biography. Essentially, she was a nun, and she, for her time, was very progressive. She used her pen as her weapon of power and penned some very important essays that challenged the patriarchy, the church, the norms, the cultural norms at the time. And she was a feminist and a social progressive. So she was very ahead of her time, and I admire her for her courage, to use her pen and her wit and her brains and her smarts to challenge the status quo. So I've read this poem before, but I'll read it again because I love it so much. This is from Finjamos que soy feliz by Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz, and it is in Spanish. Ya que para despedirme, dulce y idolatrado dueño, ni me da licencia el llanto, ni me da lugar el tiempo. Háblente los tristes rasgos, entre lastimosos ecos de mi triste pluma, nunca, con más justa causa negros, y aún ésta te hablará torpe con las lágrimas que vierto, porque va borrando el agua lo que va dictando el fuego. Hablar me impiden mis ojos, y es que se anticipan ellos, viendo lo que he de decirte, a decírtelo primero. Oye la elocuencia muda que hay en mi dolor sirviendo, los suspiros de palabras, las lágrimas de conceptos. Mira la fiera borrasca que pasa en el mar del pecho, donde zozobran turbados mis confusos pensamientos. Mira cómo ya el vivir me sirve de afán grosero, que se avergüenza la vida de durante tanto tiempo. Mira la muerte que esquiva, huye porque la deseo, que aún la muerte, si es buscada, se quiere subir de precio. Mira cómo el cuerpo amante, rendido a tanto tormento, siendo en lo demás cadáver, solo en el sentir es cuerpo. Mira cómo el alma misma aún teme en su ser exento, que quiera el dolor violar la inmunidad de lo eterno. En lágrimas y suspiros, alma y corazón a un tiempo, aquel se convierte en agua y ésta se resuelve en viento. Ya no me sirve de vida esta vida que poseo, sino la condición sola necesaria al sentimiento. Mas, ¿por qué gasto razones en contar mi pena y dejo de decir lo que es preciso, por decir lo que estás viendo? En fin te vas, ay de mí, dudosamente lo pienso, pues si es verdad no estoy viva, y si viva no lo creo. ¿Posible es que ha de haber día tan infausto, tan funesto, en que sin ver yo las tuyas esparzas sus luces febo? ¿Posible es que ha de llegar el rigor a tan severo, que no ha de darle tu vista a mis pesares aliento? Que no he de ver tu semblante, que no he de escuchar tus ecos, que no he de gozar tus brazos, ni me he de animar tu aliento. Ay de mí, bien, ay, prenda mía, dulce fina de mis deseos. ¿Por qué me llevas el alma dejándome el sentimiento? Mira que es contradicción, que no cabe en un sujeto tanta muerte en una vida, tanto dolor en un muerto. Mas ya que es preciso, ay triste, es en mi infeliz suceso, ni vivir con la esperanza, ni morir con el tormento. Dame algún consuelo tú en el dolor que padezco, y quien en el suyo muere, viva siquiera en tu pecho. No te olvides que te adoro, y sírvante, te recuerdo, las finezas que me debes, sino las prendas que tengo. Acuérdate que mi amor, haciendo gala del riesgo, solo por atropellarlo se alegraba de tenerlo. Y si mi amor no es bastante, el tuyo mismo te acuerdo, que no es poco empeño haber empezado ya en empeño. Acuérdate, Señor mío, de tus nobles juramentos, y lo que y lo que juró tu boca, no lo desmientan tus hechos, y perdona si en temer me agravio mi bien te ofendo, que no es dolor el dolor que se contiene en lo atento, y a Dios que con el ahogo que me embarga los alientos, ni sé ya lo que te digo, ni lo que te escribo leo. That was Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz. I was introduced to Sor Juana and her writing as a student in high school. I mean, I knew about her. I don't know at what point initially. I mean, I've always known about her because her image is printed on the Mexican, on the pesos, on the the bill. So I knew, like, culturally we know Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz. I knew of her, but I didn't really know her poetry and her essays until I was in high school, and I think that's when I really, really, really got to study her. Thanks to my really great, really difficult Spanish teacher. she really challenged me, and she made me a better student and a better writer. And I don't know, Spanish felt like it was kind of like an elective, and she made it feel like it was rigorous and it was important, and she made me dedicate time to studying literature and writing. And I have so much to thank her for, because she really challenged me, and I'm so grateful, because if it hadn't been for that teacher, that Spanish high school teacher, or high school Spanish teacher, I don't think I would have so many connections to, like, so much love and passion, and feel really, really connected to Spanish lit. So thank you, Ms. Ramirez. I don't know if she'll ever hear me say thank you, but I definitely thank her. Okay, then the next one is Pablo Neruda. And Pablo Neruda is a Chilean poet. He was born in 1904. He served as a Chilean ambassador to France, and he was awarded a Nobel Prize for literature. He died in 1973. I was doing some just basic research on his, like, general, like, very basic accomplishments, and I didn't know that Pablo Neruda was a pseudonym. I mean, I kind of want to think that I knew that, but I didn't know. Like, when I read that, I felt like I was reading it for the first time. But and another really cool thing about Pablo Neruda is that he started writing. He started his career as a poet when he was a teenager. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the really, really great poets that I love start out very young, and then now when I go to bookstores, I see really young poets, like their first work, and I feel like sometimes we don't give them enough, like, support, like young poets. We always look for, like, who's been here, who's won the prizes, right? And we kind of dismiss the young poets of our time. And who's to say that those young poets won't eventually be recognized as, like, the greatest poets? So I kind of always feel that way, and I try to keep up with the younger poets, the poets that are up and coming, and I try to, support young poets. And it also makes me wonder if, like, when I was younger, I did a lot of poetry writing, and I did a lot of, like, poetry reading. And I've never published anything, but I always kind of feel like sometimes I just want to throw everything in a fire. But then I wonder, like, maybe when we're young, we say what we really want to say, and maybe our younger selves show up in the world in a very uninhibited way that is refreshing. And so maybe those verses of young love, or insecurity, or confusion, or, like, questioning, or whatever it is that we're grappling with as young people, young poets in poetry, like, whatever it is that poem is grappling with, I think maybe that's the most authentic version of ourselves, and maybe that's worth something. And I often kind of just don't even want to think about the stuff I've written, but I don't know. I feel like whenever I hear that a poet like Pablo Neruda started out when he was a teenager, it makes me feel like, okay, like, there's value to our young selves and our young thoughts. And so Pablo Neruda was a poet that, whom I was familiar with. I think I first studied Pablo Neruda in high school as well. Like I did Sor Juana, and I think Pablo Neruda became a poet that I felt like I studied more in college, and this is because there was a boy in college, and he would recite Pablo Neruda poetry, and he was a kind of boy that just was like kind of like dreamy in a way, like um, that almost made it feel like he wasn't even real. But um, he would recite all these poems to all the girls, right, and make everybody just swoon. And I always just thought, like, how does he memorize? Because he would memorize these, and he was my friend, and I just thought, like, let me get to know what is it about this poet and his work that is just so appealing to us as like his verses were so appealing to us as women. Like when I would hear these poems recited, it was just felt like the most romantic thing ever, and I just wanted to know, like, where is this coming from, you know? So I studied Pablo Neruda in college on my own time just to kind of see about this passionate poet that would write these verses that would make all of us just swoon. This one is one that I heard my friend recite quite a bit, and it is Tu risa. Quítame el pan si quieres, quítame el aire, pero no me quites tu risa. No me quites la rosa, la lanza que desgranas, el agua que de pronto estalla en tu alegría, la repentina ola de plata que te nace. Mi lucha es dura y vuelvo con los ojos cansados, a veces de haber visto la tierra, que no cambia, pero al entrar tu risa, sube al cielo buscándome y abre para mí todas las puertas de la vida. Amor mío, en la hora más oscura, desgrana tu risa, y si de pronto ves que mi sangre mancha las piedras de la calle, ríe, porque tu risa será para mis manos como una espada fresca. Junto al mar en otoño tu risa debe alzar su cascada de espuma, y en primavera, amor, quiero tu risa como la flor que yo esperaba, la flor azul, la rosa de mi patria sonora. Ríete de la noche, del día, de la luna, ríete de las calles torcidas de la isla, ríete de este torpe muchacho que te quiere, pero cuando yo abro los ojos y los cierro, cuando mis pasos van, cuando vuelven mis pasos, niégame el pan, el aire, la luz, la primavera, pero tu risa nunca, porque me moriría. And this is from Los Versos del Capitán by Pablo Neruda. Next is Gloria Anzaldua. Gloria Anzaldua is most famously known for her epic poem, essay poem, Borderlands. And I studied Gloria Anzaldua's Chicana literature in college. I really learned a lot about Chicano history in college, and Gloria Anzaldua is one of those Chicano writers, Chicana trailblazers. Like when I think of the people who've paved the way for Chicanos in literature, I think of Gloria Anzaldua. So I recently acquired this poetry collection, Latino Poetry, the Library of America Anthology by Rigoberto Gonzalez, editor. And so in this collection, we have Gloria Anzaldua's poem, To Live in the Borderlands Means You. So I'm going to read this to you. To live in the borderlands means you are neither hispana, india, negra, española, ni gabacha, eres mestiza, mulata, half-breed, caught in the crossfire between camps while carrying all 5 races on your back, not knowing which side to turn to, run from. To live in the borderlands means knowing that the India in you, betrayed for 500 years, is no longer speaking to you, that Mexicanas call you rajetas, that denying the Anglo inside you is as bad as having denied the Indian or black. Cuando vives en la frontera, people walk through you, the wind steals your voice, you're a burra, buey, scapegoat, forerunner of a new race, half and half, both woman and man, neither a new gender. To live in the borderlands means to put chile in the borscht, to eat whole wheat tortilla, speak Tex-Mex with a Brooklyn accent, be stopped by la migra at the border checkpoints. Living in the borderlands means you fight hard to resist the gold elixir beckoning from the bottle, the pull of the gun barrel, the rope crushing the hollow of your throat. In the borderlands, you are the battleground where enemies are kin to each other. You are at home, a stranger. The border disputes have been settled. The volley of shots have shattered. The truth, you are wounded, lost in action, dead, fighting back. To live in the borderlands means the mill with the razor-white teeth wants to shred off your olive red skin, crush out the kernel, your heart pound you, pinch you, roll you out, smelling like white bread but dead. To survive the borderlands, you must live sin fronteras, be a crossroads. A little bit about Gloria Anzaldua. She was born September 26, 1942, and she died May 15, 2004. She was a queer Chicana, poet, writer, feminist, theorist. Her awards include the Lambda Lesbian Small Book Press Award, Sappho Award of Distinction, and NEA Fiction Award. I feel like her work is still so relevant and so powerful. So she's someone that I truly admire, and her writing has influenced and impacted me as an individual. It's helped me through, like, parse out the questions of what does it mean to live on the border, to be caught between identities and races and ethnicities, and all of that, like all of those conflicts, like of being not from one, not from another, just being constantly, like she said in the poem, like being a crossroads, living in the in-between. I feel like she helped me work through that as a young adult, and I'm so grateful to have her writing. So another poet that I really connected with as a young adult is Alberto Rios. And it's funny, I purchased this book when I was a college student, and I read it as a college student. And as I was preparing for this video, I went and grabbed it, and I was like, what poem am I going to read? And so I kind of was going through it, reading all the poems again. And I kept saying, like, oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Oh, I like that one. So Alberto Rios, I have this collection. It's The Smallest Muscle in the Human Body, but you can also find him in this collection if you have this collection or you get hold of this collection. Alberto Rios is in it. So, okay, finally, the poem that I decided to share with you is If I Leave You. I remember really, really, really loving this poem in my 20s when I didn't yet, like, I feel like I wasn't married, I wasn't planning a family, I wasn't thinking about, that stage of my life. And as I read it again, now, like, being 20 years older and not having a family and it's just kind of a little bit weird, a little bit like, wow, like mind-blowing. Not weird in a bad way, but weird and like, wow, like how my younger self connected with this and then how I connect with it. Different, but I think it's still a powerful poem. So if I leave you for Joaquin, it's dedicated for Joaquin, it's the dedication for Joaquin by Alberto Rios. Heaven has once again become valuable to me. Somewhere along I lost it, and I'm not saying I found it again, but I have a son now, and he's almost 6. He's the one who needs it, or maybe he doesn't. 6-year-olds do pretty good without any help from me. I guess I'm saying it's me. I'm the one who needs it, but for him. I need heaven again, so that I've got something to say, the same way I needed something said to me about dog heaven. And every other time there was nothing else to say. In those moments there's a heaven somewhere inside the word itself, and maybe that's all there needs to be. What it is that there needs to be something. It's that uncomplicated. It's that uncomplicated. There needs to be something. And I need to be able to say it when my boy looks at me. And when I look back at him, I need this word. And he needs me to have it when he talks about his grandfather, or Aunt Connie, or 6-toed Hector, the pal cat we had forever. It's not bigger than that, and it's not smaller. It's a nothing jump from there to guardian angels, to the picture from my bedroom, the picture that became part of the wall. After so many years, you know which one. 2 kids crossing a bridge, high up in some kind of mountains, the 2 of them almost ready to fall off the rickety planks, and no parents anywhere, just the green angel, big and happy-eyed, and watching them so that I felt better, looking at it in the dark as I got myself ready to go to sleep, wherever sleep was. Going to sleep, it sounded like going somewhere, away from home, and by myself. To the terror I see now, my parents must have harbored every time I started out, just the way I feel it when my son lies down, just the way. The only thing I can do for my little and good man is pack him a lunch of heaven for the trail. Heaven and angels and gold talk something to carry him along when I can't be there. It's all I can do, and it isn't much, and it's all that was done for me. I've got a couple of words for him, and that's it. That's all he can carry. It's nothing to jump further as well to growing up small town. Unlocked doors, and the time I shocked my parents because I saw their big eyes get so big, I'll tell you. When I told them I wanted to be a priest, it wasn't true exactly. It was just the 50s. I was in catechism. The space race was on, and in our nun's classroom a bulletin board marked attendance. By everybody having a paper spaceship, she moved up one big planet toward God. Each Thursday you came here after school, I wanted to get to heaven first. It was a strange goal, all of us still being alive, and 5th graders like we were. And I don't know if I believe in heaven. It's true I need it. This is a funny thing to hear myself say. Maybe that nun was right. Maybe you needed heaven, right in the classroom, and when you are alive. And not just Dad. I can't believe she was right, and I don't want to. I don't believe she gave me the answer to anything else, not even what happened to the Ark of the Covenant, which became my favorite question that year, because nobody could answer it until they made the Indiana Jones movies. And then all I wanted to say was, I thought of this plot first. But wearing a scapular, making First Communion, that stuff, it all just got in the way, finally, and getting dressed up in good clothes on Sundays, and then for anything, just made me get sick in my stomach. I still feel that way mostly. I don't know when I really learned anything about heaven, or if I did learn anything not already on a postcard or a calendar, but there you are. I've got a little boy now, just the way I was a little boy, and I don't know what else to do. And I know that that frame, that image that he's talking about, I feel like it was in I feel like amongst other Mexican kids, I feel like so many of us had that in our bedrooms. We had a really big one. I had one really big one on my wall as a kid, and I remember it, and I do remember it, looking at it, and somehow it always kind of did put me to sleep. That atoned for like, had this peaceful way of like lulling you into this dream world where maybe angels were watching over you. It was really something. So I think when I first read that in my 20s, I knew what he was talking about, and I could connect with his experience as a kid. Yeah. So that was a poem by Alberto Rios that really like connected with me and made me think, and made me feel validated in my spiritual questioning and journey. And then finally, Ada Limon. So Ada Limon is a newer poet to me. She's not someone that I, knew about as a young adult. She's someone that in my 30s came into my life to help me with just grounding, a sense of like groundedness in the natural world. I love Ada Limon's poetry for that. I feel like it grounds me in the natural world. She does use nature in her poetry to help create metaphor and to help create meaning and juxtapose the human existence to the natural world. I think that's really powerful. So the poem that I want to read is from The Hurting Kind, and it is titled A Good Story. Some days, dishes piled in the sink, books littering the coffee table are harder than others. Today, my head is packed with cockroaches, dizziness, and everywhere it hurts. Venom in the jaw, behind the eyes, between the blades. Still, the dog is snoring on my right, the cat on my left. Outside, all those red buds are just getting good. I tell a friend, the body is so body. And she nods. I used to like the darkest stories, the bleak snippets someone would toss out about just how bad it could get. My stepfather told me a story about when he lived on the streets as a kid, how he'd some nights sleep under the grill at a fast food restaurant until both he and his buddy got fired. I used to like that story for some reason, something in me that believed in overcoming, but right now all I want is a story about human kindness, the way once when I couldn't stop crying because I was 15 and heartbroken, he came in and made me eat a small pizza he'd cut up into tiny bites until the tears stopped. Maybe I was just hungry, I said, and he nodded, holding out the last piece. So, the story behind this poem and why it means something to me is because it reminds me of one of my favorite memories with my brother. I have a brother, and he and I grew up really, really close. And the first time he and I were separated was when I went to college. And when I first went to college, I went to college out of state. And I was really struggling in those first couple of years. I was grappling with an eating disorder. And I was really struggling with the eating disorder. And my brother, who's younger than me, was in high school. And one day I was really emotional. Maybe I was homesick. Maybe I was heartbroken. maybe I was sad or just a young adult, just a little lost and a little lonely. And I remember calling home, talking to my brother, and just talking about our days. He was telling me about his day. I was telling him about my day. I was telling him how I felt. And I think I started crying, and I told him, I just really wish I was home right now. Like, I just really wish I was home with my family right now. And I just told him, like, what are you having? It was evening time, and I was like, I haven't had dinner. And again, like, I was struggling with anorexia. And so I hadn't eaten, and he said something like, why don't we have dinner together on the phone? Like, let's just both turn on the TV, watch the same, something like either put on a movie or like just turn on the TV and watch TV together, even though we would be watching maybe different times, different shows, because we were different time zones. And let's both order a Domino's pizza, because that's what we would have done at home. On Fridays, we would usually like order a pizza and get that delivered, and just Friday night pizza, and maybe watch something on TV or a movie. So he was like, why don't we just watch TV together and have dinner together on the phone, and I'll stay up with you. And so we were like, okay, let's hang up, because at that time, like, we didn't have cell phones. We were both on landlines. And so we were like, let's hang up, let's order a pizza, and then let's get back on the phone. So we did that. We both got our pizza, got on the phone, and we were eating the same exact pizza and watching TV together and just eating and talking about what we were watching. And that was one of the best days of my life. I don't want to start crying. But that was like one of the best times with my brother, and just his kindness and his love, like, towards me, like, to just be there for me in such like a younger brother kind of a way, like a simple younger brother kind of a way, like to have somebody love you that much, to like eat with you on the phone and tell you, you're gonna be okay, and I'm here for you. It was essentially that. He was just like, I'm here for you, like, I'm here with you, like, you're not alone. So that meant a lot, and I feel like this poem that Limon wrote really really reminds me of that, and really elicits those emotions. And I think that's what a good poet does. A good poet tells a story with language that is simple and elicits memory and feeling and love. And I feel like each of these poets have done that. They've all sparked a fire in me, sparked a passion, gave me a sense of groundedness, identity, and maybe even helped me believe in love and family and friendship and beauty and kindness. And so those are the 5 poets, the 5 Hispanic, Latine, Mexican American poets who've influenced me in just a very special kind of a way. That's all for now. I feel like I have tears in my eyes. I need to take a breath and relax. Thank you so much for watching. I hope, if you're still here, thank you. Thank you for your kindness. We'll talk soon. Hasta la próxima.